from Cleveland's most accurate weather team. This is 19 First Alert Plus, sponsored by the man that makes them pay, Tim Misney.
Good morning, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital desk. It's time to take a look at our First Alert weather picture. Obviously, all eyes have been on Florida. This is a shot out of Fort Myers. The good news, I guess, to say is that the storm, while it made landfall at about 7:45 this morning, it has weakened significantly. We've been looking at some different pictures that we have available out of Florida. I'm going to put up one other here for just a second, Kelly, before we get to you. This was out of Cedar Key, Florida, and I was watching this shot an hour ago, and it was blinding rain, super heavy wind. And as you can see, that's pretty much done. There was a billboard in this area that was blown over while the reporters were live in that area. But bringing in 19 First Alert meteorologist Kelly Dobeck. Kelly, this isn't over by any means, but perhaps the most dangerous part of it is over.
Yeah, for some folks it is. I will say, though, that we're still looking at some extreme wind warnings that are issued, and I'll show you that here in just a moment. And that is no joke. Talking about wind speeds still, over 100 miles an hour. Some folks being impacted by northern Florida, north of the Big Bend, where it did hit earlier. So this is the latest update here. Winds around 110 miles an hour. It did make landfall with wind speeds of 125 near Keaton Beach, Florida, in Taylor County. Now, thankfully, Taylor County did have mandatory evacuation, so I'm really hoping we don't hear too much in terms of people getting hurt or anything like that. Hopefully everybody evacuated, because they were hit and still are seeing rain, but we're hit with a catastrophic storm surge. We're talking about extreme winds over 100 miles an hour and flooding, and all of those things combined. And we also had a tornado watch earlier as well. All those things combined, you can't really protect yourself from flooding and tornado winds and all of that stuff. So the mandatory evacuations, thankfully, hopefully help save a lot of people. But the other thing is the storm is massive. It's calling storm surge issues all the way down Tampa and areas south. We're seeing storm surge problems. Tide also going to be a factor that comes into dealing with more water in those areas, even though the storm is moving north and northeast. So I want to zoom in on the latest here. We still do have a tornado watch in effect for some areas here. And I know there's a lot of colors on your map. For a second, I'm actually going to turn the tornado off to kind of show you what some of these colors mean. This red you're seeing right here, if I can actually click on it here, a lot of that is a flash flood watch we're dealing with. So heavy rain, we've got the threat of flooding, flash flooding, as well as the threat of tornadoes and damaging wind gusts. I mean, you name it, we're dealing with it here. So let me try to get, this is what I would like to see here. Extreme wind warning. That's what I wanted to show you here through the next hour. So extreme wind warnings are winds over 100 miles an hour. From the National Weather Service, they say, interior room, away from windows, get under a table, all of that stuff. But those folks also have to be mindful of flash flood warnings as well. Extreme wind warnings are something that we rarely see. And just to put it into perspective for you, the Big Bend has never been hit with a Category 4 storm making landfall. And again, it did just go just shy of a Category 4 right before it made landfall, because it went through something called an eye-wall replacement cycle. But still, it brought catastrophic, flooding, extreme winds. We're just starting to see some of the flooding videos from areas south. So once we start seeing stuff out of Taylor County, I think it's going to be pretty brutal. But we're not done yet. Georgia and much of the East Coast are still going to have to deal with extreme wind gusts, heavy rain. I mean, we still have extreme wind warnings out there right now. So by no means are we out of the woods yet in northern Georgia, or northern Florida and southern Georgia, along the Florida-Georgia line there. Through the afternoon, we're still looking at winds gusting, over 100 miles an hour, sustained winds of 100 miles an hour as it pushes up along the coast here. Just to show you through the rest of the day today and into tomorrow, portions of South Carolina, Savannah, Charleston, Myrtle Beach also going to be impacted by this as well. So by no means are we out of the woods yet. The storm made landfall this morning. Kind of the worst of it, Dan, is happening, I would say, right now. We are getting into the thick of some of the worst from Hurricane Idalia.
Let's shift our focus, thoughts, and we'll be watching everything happening down in the south. But let's turn up here and what impact, if any, we will see from Idalia over the next few days.
Yeah, so we actually had a front come through overnight, which is why it feels like fall outside. It looks like fall. We've got mostly cloudy skies. We had some lake-enhanced showers, some drizzle early this morning when I turned on the radar loop to show you here. That's going to be the theme today, and that front's actually going to help keep kind of things at bay here. We're really not going to see any impacts from Idalia here at all. But a big concern back here at home, we've got a small craft advisory. The lake is very angry today. We're talking about waves potentially up to 6 feet this afternoon, and also the threat of water spouts going to be there. So typically, this is the type of weather that fishermen kind of like. When we see that drop in pressure, typically means it's better for fishing. Avoid the lake today because it is going to be too dangerous. That small craft advisory goes and continues through early tomorrow morning. It's just not going to be a great day to get out on the lake. But I will say, after we get through today, Dan, the rest of the 7-day forecast, it's like night and day. So you get to enjoy your fall sweaters, all that good stuff today, and then wait till you see Labor Day weekend.
Excellent. Let's take that 15-second pause, and then we'll watch the heat roll in.
I've represented families just like yours for over 4 decades. Listen, if you need me, call me. You know I'll be there for you, and I'll make them pay. In the meantime, I'll keep an eye out for you.
And here it is, as promised, some 90-degree days on the board. Keep in mind, we've only had one this summer in Northeast Ohio, and that is extremely rare.
Yeah, we're finally going to make a run for our money here with some more 90s. Just look at the difference today versus the end of the weekend into early next week. We're in the 60s today. Chilly start to your Thursday and even your Friday, but then we're gradually warming back up. Let's talk more about the weekend because there's a lot going on. The Geauga County Fair, Oktoberfest, the air show, all that stuff is happening this weekend. And don't let your guard down because it's going to be some of the hottest weather we've seen so far this year. So hopefully if maybe you still have the pool open for the last weekend here, the sunscreen, the water, all that stuff is going to be necessary because we're going to be pumping in the heat. And then, Dan, heading into early next week, we hold on to that warm and muggy pattern. So even though September officially starts at the end of this week, the summertime weather, I want to say, is holding on or is actually coming back for the first time, depending on the way you look at it.
And you think about those Friday night football games, going to be a nice night, but a little warm for the young men in pads out there.
Yeah, Friday night we should have by game time we'll be in the low 70s, upper 60s. So we won't start bringing back the humidity until Saturday, so it should be pretty nice for Friday night football.
And there's no rain on that entire 7 day.
Look at that. Yep, just today, drizzle's the only threat of any type of rain the next 7 days.
Excellent. 19 First Alert meteorologist Kelly Dobeck, thanks for checking in.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, take care. Just a look at our weather picture, of course, keeping an eye on everything down in Florida as that hurricane has made landfall, is now passing over parts of the Panhandle and even crossing into Georgia right there at the state line, the Florida-Georgia line. As we continue to watch that, we're also going to keep you updated on anything here in our own weather, getting ready for a nice blast of heat coming for your holiday weekend. If we have any other breaking news, we're going to bring it to you here on our digital properties. We'll give you one last look outside in downtown Cleveland. A few of those clouds, 62 degrees, going to be a nice cool day ahead of our warm-up. We have our 11 o'clock news in just about an hour on CW43, then our noon news on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.
19 News is everywhere.